We would like to welcome everyone to today's Global Perspective Institute. Our theme for today is celebrating women who tell our stories. Our GPIs are an enrichment forum designed to foster dialogue on topics and various issues of national and international focus. This month serves as a time to honor the achievements and the contributions that women of all backgrounds have made, and I am very excited to have this distinguished panel with us today. Our moderator for today's forum is going to be Dr. Monique Witherspoon. She currently serves as an Associate Dean and Associate Professor for the School of Education at Samford University. I'm going to pass it over to her, allow her to introduce herself, and then we will continue with our forum for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to place them in the chat. And if we have time at the end, then we will open the floor for those questions. Dr. Witherspoon, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon, ladies. It gives me great pleasure to spend time with you. For those that I do know, it's a pleasure to see you again. And for those that I don't know, I look forward to getting to know you, where our relationship will continue. I would like to acknowledge Ms. Shipe and thanking Ms. Shipe for the opportunity to serve and to be amongst greatness with all of these wonderful women and the beautiful faces that I see on the screen. So celebrating women who tell our stories. So as a backdrop, I'll talk a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to also just yield to our wonderful panelists that have joined me this afternoon. So I'm Monique Gardner Witherspoon. I currently serve as the Senior Associate Dean for the School of Education at Samford University. I also serve as an Associate Professor in Doctoral Studies or Educational Leadership. I've been in education for over 30 years, between K-12 and higher education. I served as one of the area superintendents in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools for many years, and then also here in the state of Alabama at Samford University, where I groom superintendents and principals and also serve as Title IX, one of the deputy Title IX coordinators here, to strengthen our ties and also provide opportunities to strengthen our safety and all of those pieces here at Samford. So I'm honored and excited to be with you. So with that, I'm going to also then ask my colleagues that are panelists to do the same, to give their names and a little bit of their background so you can get to know these wonderful women that I share and occupy this space with today. So at first I'm going to yield to Judge Martha Cook, my friend. Please tell everyone your name and your background, if you would, please.
I will, and I'll be brief because I know we want to get on to the discussion, but I'm so honored to be here, and thank y'all, Global Ties, for inviting me to be a part of this. I was with Dr. Witherspoon not long ago with the Pan-African group of delegates, and it really was a religious experience. It was amazing. She did a great job that day, and I know she'll do a great job today as our moderator. Anytime I get a chance to do anything with Global Ties, as Jackie and Annette, I see Annette on the screen. As y'all know, if Global Ties calls, I come running because I just love this group so much. So thank you. I'm currently a district court judge in Jefferson County, Alabama. As a district court judge, I hear all civil cases in my division. And sadly, right now, those are a lot of eviction cases, which I take very seriously because I know that's emotional and difficult for everybody, especially post-pandemic. But my court is all civil cases, and it's 20,000 or less. I feel very honored to serve. I feel very humbled to serve. I grew up in Selma, Alabama, right post civil rights or the Voting Act. I was born a few years after that was passed. And so I grew up in Selma, Alabama thinking, we're all good, everything's good. Those, civil rights laws have been passed. And as I grow up and get outside of Selma, I realize, oh, whoa, wait, we got a lot more work to do. So anytime I get a chance to be around others, to hear from others, to respect others' opinions, I just love the opportunity. And this judgeship has allowed me to help people that are hurting very badly. I sure can't show favoritism, but I can be fair. And I want to make sure everybody gets a chance at equal justice. And that's what I try to do every day.
Thank you, Judge Cook. And likewise, it's a pleasure to spend time with you again. And also, I share the same sentiments. When Global Ties calls, I will also be running with. So now the next person I'm going to yield to is Dr. Scarency.
Well, thank you again for the invitation. I'm so honored to have shared this hour with such an outstanding group of women. And Global Ties is a new relationship, but I have been so impressed with the work Global Ties does in Alabama. I am a professor at the University of Alabama, Birmingham School of Medicine, the Department of OBGYN, Vice Chair for Global and Rural Health. This is something that's very close to my heart because a lot of time I do a lot of global work and I work in rural Alabama. And sometimes when we take residents or fellows or students to other countries, they go with that vision of helping and don't see what they can learn to bring it back to our state. So we are really making a concerted effort of really making that connection in this bi-directional. My background is in clinical psychology and public health. So addiction, Judge, is very troublesome these days because it's very sad what's happening. So this is professional. Personally, I'm from the South, just a little southern, more south than here. I'm from Brazil. Came to the United States 34 years ago. So I have lived here longer than I have lived in Brazil and have 3 citizenships, 3 passports, Judge, with the same name on it, Brazilian, American, and Italian. So it's an honor to be here and engage in this discussion with you.
Dr. Scarency, the honor is ours, and thank you so much for sharing that. And so our last person, Lisa Mays, if you would please introduce yourself, tell us your name and background.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lisa Mays. I am the CEO of the Catalyst Center for Business and Entrepreneurship. We have locations in North Alabama in Huntsville, as well as in Clanton, Alabama, that services central Alabama counties. We have a big heart for small business, and we exist to help small business owners and entrepreneurs along every stage of their business life cycle journey. We do that through free trainings, webinars, workshops, and one-on-one small business coaching. I love what I do. I love that I have the opportunity every single day to lead a team of outstanding individuals who passionately help small business owners' dreams come true. That's really exciting to me. I already feel like we are like-hearted and have a lot of I think of life as a tapestry, and on the back, you can kind of see the colors woven through, right? And I already see strands woven through just the 3 women I've heard from. For one, I'm a Sanford graduate. I graduated from the School of Business there and then went to law school at the University of Alabama, practiced law for about 5 years, then jumped ship and went to the opposite end of the spectrum, where I worked in, began working in the nonprofit world and worked for almost a decade at the Downtown Rescue Mission, which was a homeless and addiction recovery center for men, women, and children, where we housed those who had been evicted and those who were struggling with life addictions and all of the different things that come along with experiencing poverty and homelessness. So for us, it is so important. One of the culture changes that I brought on when coming to the Catalyst was equitable access to resources for all entrepreneurs, no matter where they are housed, no matter what background. So that's professional. Personally, I am married to the love of my life. We have a blended family, 4 boys, 20, 17, and then I brought twin 8-year-olds, and we have a dog, and she is a mess. And that's my life. And I'm
Wonderful.
so glad to be here.
Thank you for sharing. It seems like
Sure.
we have more in common than we are different, correct?
That's right.
So we're going to continue on with our conversation, ladies. And of course, this is Women's History Month. And I'm going to yield to the panelists just to ask, just in general, why do you believe Women's History Month is important? I'm going to go back to Judge Cook. Judge Cook?
Well, thank you. And as a side note, I think both the other panelists know two of my sisters. I only have two.
Oh.
My older sister is Dr. Alice Reeves Getford at UAB.
Ah,
Yes. And then Lisa, my younger sister, is Claude Reeves Arrington at the University of Alabama.
Oh my gosh, I love her.
So
Oh my gosh,
I
she would.
just,
Please give Claude a big
I
hug
will-
for
I
Lisa
will.
Davis. I was Lisa
I will.
Davis in law school, but please tell her. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I
Yeah.
will.
and
And
Alice is in my department.
yes, when you said your department, I was like, of course she knows my sister.
It's
And I bring
adorable.
that up not only to tie into the tapestry that we all can feel in this call, the Zoom call, but also to impress upon, I know y'all probably feel the same as I do, is how women and Women's History Month is so important because the other women in our lives are so important. I am blessed to have a older sister that knew in, I think, 9th grade that she not only wanted to be a doctor, but an OBGYN doctor. And that's what she is at UAB. And so that set a pretty high bar for little old me that came next. But because she set such a good model for me and showed determination, I mean, our parents said, you know, go do whatever you want to do, and we're going to back you on that. And that wasn't always true. We got in a lot of trouble sometimes, but what they meant is we want you to be independent women. And I have to, you know, be very transparent. My dear friend, Dean Cassandra Adams, knows this story. You know, I had the privilege of growing up in a small town where my father was the only ENT, only physician of ear, nose, and throat and allergy. So everybody had to go to him at some point. And so we were able to do things that other families, both Black and white, could not do. And that meant one of the blessings I had was to just briefly get out of the state of Alabama and go to school elsewhere just to experience. I swore I'd never come back to Alabama, but of course I did. And I'm so, so glad I did. But Women's History Month to me is about celebrating our being women and being women together and looking around and saying, you know, I'm here because of other women, whether it's a sister, a mother, you know, a colleague. And also I'm trying in my older years to build up younger women, whether it's Women's History Month or another month of the year. You have a lot of friends that say, look, Black History Month it needs to be more than a month. I agree. It needs to be all year long. And so with women's, not really history, but Women's Month, I mean, we are involved in so much and should be at every table we can be at. So I'm thankful for our little month of 31 days that we can be celebrated, and just relish in the fact that we need each other. Thankfully, we have each other, and we need to help younger women that are coming up behind us.
And that is so important, the mentorship that you're talking about and all of those things. And I know we can extend this conversation. I'm going to then talk to Dr. Scarinci to ask her the same about Women's History Month and why you believe it's important.
I agree with the judge, and there's such a small world, but I think women's history is so important in so many ways because we need to understand and learn where we came from. We need to know history, and I see a lot of people forget the history because without that we cannot make our present and our future for better for other women. So if not, we keep reinventing the wheel like nobody learned those lessons before. And without that knowledge and reflection, we not only fail to honor the women who came before us, but we also do not continue their work. Using Lisa's analogy, it is a tapestry that they started for us. And they left some instructions from their lessons learned, and it's upon us to continue that tapestry. But without taking that into account, it's very hard for continuity and for us to move forward.
Excellent. And weaving the tapestry that realizes our dreams, right? So Lisa, I'd like for you to jump in here and talk a little bit about the importance of Women's History Month for you.
Well, I don't know what I could say that would be any more eloquent or accurate than what my co-panelists have said, but it's so important for us to look back and to see where we've come from, because as women and as humans, we are always looking to be more excellent today than we were yesterday, and more excellent tomorrow than we were today. And the way to do that and to continue to build on that legacy that has been established by all of the women, all of the amazing women and fighters and warriors who have gone before us to blaze this trail for us, so that we can turn around and extend a hand to the next generation and bring them along, is to really take a look at, grasp, embrace the foundation that's been laid, so that we can continue to build a lasting legacy for generations to come.
Very eloquently said. So I'm going to come back to Judge Cook for just a second. Judge Cook, so in your career, how has Women's History Month been realized or represented as a judge?
Not well, I don't think. I mean, I don't think it's been celebrated like it should have been. I think we also are part to blame for that, me included. We get very busy. Mothers, daughters, blended families. And congratulations, Lisa. I'm so happy. I've been through a divorce and I hope to have a blended family one day. But that's wonderful.
It's the best.
I know. I can tell in your words and your smile. So that's great. Yeah, I think because, as Dean Adams and I like to say, we're like sponges. Women are just sponges. We take in everybody else's feelings, problems, because we want to fix it. We want to nurture it. We want to take care of everything. Well, when we do that, we leave ourselves short. And we don't, I don't think, do a good job at tooting our own horn. Gosh, I wish we did. This country might not be in the situation it's in, but, I think we're working on that. I think we're working to get more women at the leadership tables where they do belong. I think women are completely suited, wonderfully suited for leadership positions, because we do take care of others and we nurture others, but we also know we can be firm. I came into a courtroom when I was appointed in 2019. So this is April 1st will be my 4th year as a judge. I was only the 2nd female judge, district court judge in Jefferson County. That's a big deal. That was 2019. I mean, these courts have been open, for 100 years? So, we're talking about a long time coming. And I had to be very knowledgeable, which I felt like I was and am, but I also had to remember that this is my courtroom now. And just because men have run it in the past doesn't mean they're running it now. And so when I had some of the older practicing attorneys who I still have in my courtroom, today, not literally today, but tomorrow, they would, try to tell me how to put something in my order or tell me how to order. And I just had to quickly say firmly, I appreciate that, but I'll make the decision in this case. And just left it at that. I don't think we stand up for ourselves enough or toot our own horn enough. And I hope with programs like this and with Global Ties doing so much good work that we can, do better at that, because Women's History Month is important, but we 365 days of the year are women, and we take on, I think, the bulk of the love, the problems, the accidents, the boo-boos, the whatever, and we got to get in there and fix it. And again, that's why I think we would make and do make such good leaders. I just wish there were more of us leaders at the tables.
More of us at the table. Very well said. Dr. Scarinci, in your career sector as a physician, has Women's History Month been well represented there?
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist. And actually, I'm an odd bird in the School of Medicine. I'm the only PhD in my department. So I think I look for differences in my life. But I think, my focus is women's health. Some of you know that my passion is cervical cancer, because we can eliminate that cancer hopefully in my lifetime. So I think that I could talk about many women's issues where knowing the history as well as the experiences of women are critical, but I'll focus on cervical cancer. I hope nobody's having lunch, because sometimes us in the medical field, we talk about stuff like, in the middle of lunch. So all of us probably have gone through the pap test. Used to be called pap smear, and has been considered one of the major discoveries of the 20th century. And really, cervical cancer in the 20th century had the highest decline. The person that discovered the PAP, he worked for 21 years to get to that tool, was George Papanikolaou, and got a lot of awards and deserved it. What people do not know, this is, let's see, between 1920 and 1940s. And what people do not know is that Mary Papanikolaou, his wife, let him scrape her cervix every day for 21 years for him to get to that discovery. But she did it, history says, I love history, as you can tell, that she did it with a sense of mission, because she was his lab coordinator. And that's how he was able to see progression of cells for 21 years, every single day. I never see her name when it's on her. So this is, let's think 1940s, the sacrifice that Mary did for us. And then 40 years later, it took 40 years, we found, not we, but the field, that HPV is the cause of cervical cancer. And now we have two powerful tools, that is vaccination and screening, that we can totally eliminate cervical cancer. This is in the 80s. Let's fast forward another 40. And here we are, the women of the 21st century, that we have all that history, what Mary did, and all the discoveries, and we're not doing enough for other women to eliminate this cancer. A lot of times, we are looking at our own belly button and not being there every day like Mary did in terms of awareness. I think that we have an opportunity to go to the books as the women of the 21st century that eliminated that cancer. We just need to do more of, and as Judge said, a lot of times we do not come together and really fight for, for what we believe. And this is one example, because it's what I do every day. But we do not talk about, what the little or big things we do. And then the men take the credit, as always.
Yes. So Lisa, I'm moving over to you. Dr. Scarinci gave us some beautiful nuggets here. So in terms of just the representation of women's history in your career, talk to us about that.
Well, I will tell you, I am so fortunate in that right now I am smack dab in the middle of a career and a position and an organization that is tasked with celebrating women in business ownership, women as entrepreneurs, women as business leaders. And so I got to kick off Women's History Month in Montgomery with an event called Access and Allies, co-hosted by the Women's Foundation of Alabama and the Lab on Dexter, where my dear friend Nicole Thompson is the executive director. And we spent the day talking about what it's like to be a woman, talking about things that affect us that don't affect men, right? Things that challenge us in our career paths and in our personal lives. We talked about mental health. We talked about encouraging one another, about creating an atmosphere, moving beyond the traditional diversity, equity, and inclusion to a place of belonging, where we're not just looking to be included. We want you to look at us and say, you should have always been here. You belong here, and you've always belonged here. One of my favorite things that I got to talk about, I was one of the lunch panelists for the day to close the day out. And we had the most fun talking about being a woman in a man's role and how that has affected all of us professionally as we've developed. And so, and I think I'll probably save this tidbit for the next question if we get to that. But we just spent a day celebrating women and having fun. And the day, y'all, it ended with cocktails and cigars if they wanted them. And like with a DJ, there was this party, there was this all of these strong, beautiful women, like mom bosses and boss babes, just taking charge. And it was the most empowering, encouraging, invigorating day. So I have a great answer for that question. I feel like my career is celebrating women really well this month.
Celebrating it indeed. Okay, ladies. So the three of you are just terrifically successful women, but we know that with that success comes challenges. We touched on this a little bit. I know Judge Cook was starting down this road, but I'd like to come back to Judge Cook for just a second. What challenges would you like to share with our participants today that you've encountered on your path to becoming a judge? I know you gave us one example, but some others perhaps that you'd like to share with us.
Well, I think it will need to start back to when I decided to become an attorney, which you have to be, at least in this position, you have to be an attorney to become a judge. I believe, if I'm correct, this may have changed recently, but at least in Alabama, probate judges at the time did not have to be lawyers. But for my type of court work, I have to be licensed and in good standing with the bar. So for 20 plus years, I practiced law and mediation out there in the man's world of law. And I know from my sister Alice that medicine is even more of a man's world. So I'm sure there are all kinds of struggles. Doctor could tell us about that. I do recall early on, just having to make my presence known, but not in that chip on the shoulder kind of way. Like I was going to be the B word that they always want to, make us be, even when we're not. But I was asked in a large meeting on a very complex case where there were numerous defendants, and I was at a firm at the time that represented, through insurance companies, represented defendants. And I can't remember the factual details. I just remember there were a lot of defendants, and one of them was our defendant, the firm I worked for at the time. And the partners I worked with were great. I mean, at least on the surface, I was the first female in their firm, and that was great. I wrote my own maternity policy, which was even more fantastic at the time. Sure, I'll give myself X number of weeks. But those were wonderful learning experiences. But when it came to lawyers outside of my firm, it took them a while, especially the older gentlemen, to really get used to a young female being at the table. And one of the largest law firms back in the day, and still even now, very well respected. It may not be as voluminous in lawyers as others, but I was asked to excuse myself while the head honcho at the table, who was the head lawyer at this firm, asked me to step outside along with his stenographer, who's the lady who takes the notes, while he tells a dirty joke. And I said, no. I'm not stepping outside. I'm a lawyer. I'm representing this client, and you can tell that joke right here in the room with me here. Now, to this day, I think he changed the joke because I decided to stay, but that's fine. Maybe he didn't need to tell that rude joke that was probably about a woman or something. Mm-hmm. So maybe in a small way, I made him think, you know what, I better not tell that joke again because there are going to be females around. His stenographer left because, of course, she worked for him. And she wasn't a lawyer. I should have said she's staying, but I felt like that was totally outside of my role. But for me, I felt like that was perfectly fine. And my partner lawyer that was I was an associate at the time, but my boss with my firm, he was fine with it. He goes, yeah, she needs to stay. And, this is, I know I take up a lot of time, and I'll try to be brief, but Cassandra and I just spoke at a leadership forum for the Alabama State Bar. And we're very careful not to talk about specifics out of those conversations because it's sensitive in nature. But I will give you a generalization that is absolutely true. That type of behavior is still going on with women lawyers in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Mobile, because these lawyers were from all over. And I mean, I guess I just thought I had once again conquered an evil for them who are younger than I am, but oh no. It's still going on very live and well. And I know we all know that, but that's just a reminder to me that I need to help younger female lawyers who feel like, I mean, this one this one lady, it keeps happening to over and over. And Cassandra and I just looked at each other like, we're going to fix this, but she's got to do it. and we're happy to help. But I just say to all of us on this panel, and I know we do this, we care enough, but let's take the time to help those younger that haven't been doing this as long as we have, to say, you know what, let's figure out a way to fix this, because this is not right. This should not be happening.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to move over to Dr. Scarinci. I know that you have some challenges in your field as well. What would you like to share with us today?
So I'll start. Lisa's giving me all the inspiration today. So I'll step out of a minute because I think you touch on something important. You know, you're in business, I am in academics, but probably everybody saw the news. It was only 3 months ago that out of 60, numbers are not my strength, but I think the Fortune 500 is almost 70 years old. For the first time, 3 months ago, women CEOs reached 10%, 53 to be precise, 3 months ago. So that shows we have a long way to go, because I think in a way, you know, linking to Mary Papanikolaou, that now you know who she is, I think we are still like her, not recognized for our work. We need to, exactly what the judge said, we need to fight harder than men to get our voices heard. We need to fight hard to get equal pay. And we need to fight hard to get promoted in academics. The standards a lot of times are not the same. So in 2018, we just reviewed the data recently here, only about 16% of the medical school deans were women. Less than 20% are department chairs. 25% are full professors. That's not a pipeline issue, because most of our medical students are women. So if we all start the academic career and only 25% of us get to be full professor, that's a problem. And what is happening to all these other women that we are losing along the way? It doesn't make any sense to me. And but I use this data and history as motivation, because we can dwell on it and we can sit on it and feel sorry for ourselves and get a glass of wine and share our misery, or we look forward. And I think age helps, because you know, and when you're a tenured professor, they can not fire you. Well, they can, but I think we need to be those voices that assistant professors, I'm speaking in academics because it's the world I know, they're not going to speak up. And so to me, I take this as a motivation, and as only as a woman, as a minority woman with a disability, that it's my responsibility to open doors for our junior faculty, for our fellows, for our residents. And I see challenge just an opportunity to do better. And I have been provided opportunities, you know, within my medical school to do things in terms of opening doors for others. But it has been a struggle. I'm not going to lie to you, to get to where we are. You know, it's if you are too sweet, you're flirting. You know, when you're 60, you're not flirting anymore. You're really a witch. But and if you are tough, you're a witch. So you can't win. And but I really see that as that never stopped me to fight for what I believe. But has been hard.
Yes, love that. Using challenges as an opportunity to do better and to also be better and to help others to be better. Love that, Dr. Scarinci. So challenges.
Well, I think I could list out so many times when I've worked, excuse me, in a male-dominated legal field, for one, good old boys club, right? um, different times when I was treated unfairly or honestly, sometimes atrociously and illegally as a woman. But for me, becoming better tomorrow than I am today means always looking in the mirror first and recognizing the part I played along the way. And for me, not that I was deserving of those things, but for me, the part I played in my own struggles was an insecurity or a feeling of needing to shrink myself to a box that made everyone else in the room comfortable. I am bubbles and confetti personified. It's who I am. It's my personality. It always has been. I cannot tell you the number of times that I stuck out like a sore thumb in a conference room full of good old boys. Or I was said, you're too nice to be a lawyer. I hated practicing law anyway. It was awful for me. No, yeah, I'm recovering. But for me, it was awful. But so I think for me, the number of times that I have dumbed down my vocabulary or my language at a table of men so as not to come across as threatening, or I have felt like I needed to shrink to fit their expectations of what a lawyer should be or what a coworker should be, whatever it is, there's an expectation. And I am so thankful that I kept going and that I realized through a lot of heartache that if I'm having to shrink myself or change who I truly, really authentically am to be accepted or successful in a position, that ain't my place. And I need to keep moving. And I am also so blessed that I am now sitting at a desk and in a chair where my bubbles and confetti are celebrated every day. And it's what makes my company amazing. It's what makes my team amazing. I'm their biggest cheerleader, and they know that. And all of the things about me that before had to be altered or minimized to be considered successful are what fuel my success now. And I think I want to speak to that, the question about, or someone said earlier about fighting for the equal pay and fighting for the promotions and teaching women to be confident. I had a board chair a couple of years ago, and I had just started this job, and I was still a little insecure because it was my first CEO job. And so I was like, I don't know, I'm not anything like the founding CEO of this company. She's so different. She's so elegant and polished and wonderful. And I am Bubbles. And but I'm very smart, Bubbles, by the way. But so I'm talking to her and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And she goes, Lisa, we know who you are. We love who you are. You be you. And she said, here's what I want you to do. From now on, every time you walk into a room, I want you to do it with all the confidence of a mediocre white male. And that stuck with me. I thought, yeah, because they walk in thinking they own the place and they need the raise and they have no problems talking about how deserving they are. And I thought, okay, my husband hates that joke, by the way. He's not mediocre at all, but he hates that joke. So I think for me too, it's and I think this speaks to Judge Cooks about talking about the things that make us nurturers, and we're multitaskers. We wear so many hats. We are all the things, right? But in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of the Great Resignation, there has been born this new way of doing things, this new expectation of the workforce. And they want flexibility, they want nurturing, they've craved that, the relationship building piece, they've craved that someone to listen and be understanding and recognize that sometimes you may need to take a call from the car line. I think as women, sometimes our biggest problem is ourselves. We trip up on our own efforts to do it like a man when we were never intended to do it like a man, because when we do it like women, do it like a woman, because the things that we have been innately created with, the things that are giftings and skills that are unique to females, are what make us fantastic leaders and what make people relate to us. It's what makes them be drawn to us. And so I think the biggest thing for me has been to learn to be myself, fill up the space, and to do it like a woman.
Do it like a woman. Okay, then on that note, we have just a couple of minutes left. And I have one final question that I'd like to ask our three panelists. And that question is, tell us briefly in the couple of minutes that we have left, the three of you, what is one way that everyone can celebrate Women's History Month? I'm going to start with Judge Cook.
I know you do that because I'm the only judge on the panel, but I'm happy for somebody else to go first. I know we need to wrap up. Yeah, I think that we need to take bits of a lot of what we've said today and put it into practice. I'm so inspired by my fellow panelists, other people on the screen that I know and don't know. I know you wouldn't have shown up if you aren't a great person, so you're a great person. I do think we need to, what I'd like to do is focus on my nieces who are 16 and 15 and let them know that, you know, I will support them anyway, financially, if I can, sit down with them because they don't want to talk to their mom about a certain subject, that I can talk to them and just be there for them like I wasn't in my previous life. I have two grown sons. And so I was always the one in pink in my household. I was the only one in pink. And so now that I'm able to, you know, they're going on and moving on into their adult lives, I would like to help promote my nieces and other young ladies and just let them know that we are the fixers, the nurturers, and that's a great thing. I think Lisa said it, let's celebrate ourselves and be who we are and not shrink ourselves. You know, one of my pet peeves, and I said this at the leadership forum, and the female lawyers looked at me like this, but y'all notice, and no offense to the younger ladies on the screen, but a lot of times in pictures you'll see on Instagram and Facebook, the women are hunching over in the front row. No, stand up, be bold. You don't need to hunch over and be smaller than everybody else. But that's what we've been taught. I see my nieces do it, and I'm like, no, you stand there tall and beautiful just like everyone else. Don't shrink.
That's right.
Okay, Dr. Scarinci, what do you want to leave us?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to, as Judge said, choose something that's important. You know, we cannot do everything, and go forth, all in. But in order to do that, you need to build credibility, and you can only build credibility, you know, through knowledge, knowing that your history, you know, because you can't establish it. It's like when I train junior faculty on a particular topic, you know, they said, well, they don't respect me. Well, when people ask questions and they don't know the literature in their area, you're not going to have credibility. The other thing is, since it's History Month, I think I keep going back. We need to always remember where we came from and the people who got us here and the people who opened the doors for us. Then it's just be grateful and pay it forward and do for others. I think that's all we can do.
Beautiful. And Lisa, you have our final word before I turn it over to Skype.
Well, here's the thing. I think as women, we don't celebrate each other enough. We get sucked into this competition with each other, and that gets in we trip over that too. It's not just the imposter syndrome. It's not just the trying to do it like a man, all those things. It's we compete with each other. And I think if we can shift the mindset, and this is a quote that I have on my Post-it on my desk, and it says culture change, collaboration over competition. And here's my quote: you can't compete with me because I want you to win too. And it changes the conversation. I'm not in this to beat you. I'm not in this really I'm just in here to be more excellent today than I was yesterday and to cheer you on along the way. And I think if we embrace that sense of sorority, and that sense of just sisterhood, where someone else's success is not a threat to yours, it makes us as a collective stronger. And that's so important to recognize. And it is so important for our children to see that modeled in their mothers and their aunts and their fathers, that we are creating a world that is celebratory and supportive. And, you know, and I put this all the time that this is, you know, you guys saw Jamie Lee Curtis when her co-star won. You know, it was back at the Golden Globes before the Oscars, but she went nuts and they called it, she was a hype woman, right? We're beyond Mean Girls. Mean Girls are over. This is the year of the hype woman. Let's be hype women and let's show our kids what it looks like to celebrate this success, because the success of one woman is a success for all women. That's what I got.
Great.
And on that note, we're celebrating each other. Thank you so much to our panelists. You have been amazing. I hope that all of our participants have walked away with just wonderful pieces that they can then insert, apply to their lives and their careers, etc. And so with that as an ending, ladies, my time is up, but I certainly hope that this is just the beginning of a wonderful relationship. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Shipe to close us out. And thank you again for joining us. This has truly been an amazing opportunity. Mrs. Shipe, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Witherspoon, also known as Monique, and to Martha, Lisa, and Isabel. You have definitely put into action the theme of celebrating women who tell our stories, and your stories have been incredible. I heard during this presentation that challenges should be viewed as opportunities. And it brought such a smile to my face, because there's a Chinese, the meaning for crisis in China or in the Chinese language is challenges and opportunities. And many of us have experienced and shared those stories today. And so the formula for tomorrow has to be continuing to lend our time, our knowledge, our energy, and our voices. We could not have accomplished this vital conversation today without you. Thank you for always being there for Global Ties Alabama and your respective stakeholder communities. You make a difference, and we appreciate your stories. Have a wonderful week and continued successes individually and collectively. Thank you.